right, we are live. What is up, everybody? Good to see you on this fine Tuesday. Before we get going, we do have a buy one, get one on the shop. The link is up there at the very top in the description. Not in the description, but in the chat. And so if you buy one t-shirt, you get one free. So we do have that going on. And just in case, let me post it down here again. So there you go. There is the link. You put it in your cart. It won't show it in the cart, but when you go all the way to the checkout, that's when you will see it. So if you take it all the way to the checkout, that's where you will see the discount. So there you go. Buy one t-shirt, get one free. We are making room for the sweatshirts, which are on their way. All right. Big news, I guess, today everybody was talking about was Steve Phelps, and he had a few comments. He talked about several things, but the one, I guess, that got the most attention was probably the horsepower deal. So we'll jump into that. He talked about the cost for the teams. That was another thing that a lot of people got into. And he also talked about the media deal and the future partners streaming and all that. But I'm going to jump into the chat real quick and catch up, and then we will jump into all that. See what you guys want to talk about first. In between the lanes saying, what's up? What's up in between the lanes? I'm not sure if you saw Kaz Grala will not return to Sam Hunt Racing, another open seat in the Toyota pipeline. In fact, Baloney Burger will in fact replace Kaz Grala in the 2024 Sam Hunt Racing. I don't know about all that. I'm gonna say that Kaz Grala is probably, I'm not even gonna say probably correct. Kaz Grala is much better than me right now. Let's see. NASCAR awards being simulcast on Peacock. NASCAR not caring about its fans yet another time. Yeah, there you go. Carson Hocevar won the most popular driver for the Truck Series. Obviously, I don't care about the NASCAR awards because we're streaming here. Let's see. NASCAR Hocevar won most popular driver for the Truck Series. That's pretty cool. Denny Hamlin won most popular driver for the Cup Series. Maybe on Earth too. John Hunter Nemechek won most popular driver in the Xfinity Series. Voting is still open. So there you go. Mark Barnum. Carson streams on Twitch late nights. He is funny. Yeah, Carson's got a good personality for media, no doubt about that. Carson uses Worldwide Express, no doubt about that. Actually, a few NASCAR drivers do Moon Car. Hey, so there you go. Moonhead and Moon Car. That's actually pretty popular. Warm-up comments you can say before the live stream. Carson probably streams with Natalie Decker on Twitch and OnlyFans, says Mark Barnum. What's up, Mark Barnum? OJ and Toothpaste, what's up, BB? What's for dinner tonight? Lasagna. I had steak tacos. That's what I had. BB was Jack Sprague, a good driver. Jack Sprague was a really good driver. Didn't work out for him in the Cup Series. He only got maybe half a season. Did he even get a half a season over there? He backed it into the wall a lot in the Cup Series. I remember that. The Netscape Net Zero or whatever. Didn't work out for him in the Cup Series, but I think he was a good driver. Toyota Camry, XSE Cup car, not bad looking if you ask me, says in between lanes. Yeah, so somebody did a thing where they took the black part of the wrap that was on the nose, and when you peeled that back and you saw the white part of the nose and it separated the grill, a lot of people thought that it looked better then because you could actually see the angles in the front of the nose, whereas when they put the black part of the wrap on the nose, you couldn't see all the angles. One wise guy saying, what's up? And Mark Barnum saying, what's up? Still voting for Blaney, but I'd love to see Kyle Busch win most popular driver. Yeah, I don't have anything against Chase Elliott. In fact, I actually like him, but I would like to see somebody else win it every once in a while. I'm not holding out hope, but it would be cool to see other drivers win it from time to time. BB, maybe Matty D to the 60 car. We'll find out. That silhouette looked a lot. So they previewed it today, and that silhouette looked a lot skinnier than Matt DiBenedetto. So I've seen David Reagan. People speculating it's David Reagan. I've seen people speculating that it could be Trevor Bayne, and I've seen a few other sort of speculatory things as far as that goes. But we don't know. We don't know who it's going to be. We will know tomorrow. So we will know tomorrow. There is a poll question up. How happy are you with Steve Phelps doing his job? Pleased, don't care, somewhat dissatisfied. He needs to go. 39% think he needs to go. 33% are dissatisfied. 17% don't care. And 11% are pleased. So there you go. Let's see here. Look like David Reagan to me, says one wise guy. AJ Allmendinger to the 60. Allmendinger's going to be with a colleague. Let's see. I don't understand why NASCAR teams will not test on their own. They can, but they can't test at a NASCAR track. So they can test as long as it's not a NASCAR sanctioned track. They can go test. Phelps is a clown, says one wise guy. BB, what's your opinion on Steve Phelps? Would you drink a beer with him, a Mickey's? I don't know, man. I can't get a read on him. He seems like he tries to be cool, but I don't know. I don't like any of his ideas. I think him as a person, he's probably okay as a person. He's just trying to NFL, like he's trying to shoehorn NFL stuff into NASCAR, and it's just not. It's two totally different things. He doesn't seem to get it. Like my whole thing with him is he doesn't seem to get it. And I'm actually going to get into this. So I'm going to read some of the quotes from him, and I'm going to jump into that in just a second. Let me get to the end of these real quick, and I'll jump into that. Carl Edwards drove the 60 at Roush. Maybe he will come back. It could be Carl. It looked a little too skinny for Carl, though, so I don't know. And if Carl came back, he would only come back for a race or two here and there, I think. Kaz to the 60. I think NASCAR needs a racing guy to be the boss, says Duke Chronic. It would certainly help. It would certainly help. So I do agree with that. So let me jump into these quotes real quick, and I'm going to break them down sort of piece by piece. Let's jump in here. There's two of them. Where's the third one? There we go. All right, let's start with the TV money first. Steve Phelps said, this is from an article from Dustin Long on NBC Sports. If you want to look up the full article, we're going to have an additional partner, and we may have two additional partners. He's talking about streaming here. Phelps said that's kind of where that's kind of what we're trying to figure out these last few weeks, what it's going to look like. But we already know we're going to have more partners. Steve Phelps noted the value of having events broadcast on TV, cable, and TV streaming. I think we would. I think what I would call hedging our bets is a smart thing for us to do for the sport. Phelps said. No one has any idea what's going to happen with streaming and what's going to happen with cable. We do know that broadcast television is going to be around for the foreseeable future at 125 million homes. That is not going to change. What we do know is that the cable universe has declined. So what we're looking like in the next 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, I don't know. But we make sure that we have distribution points that will allow us to be successful moving forward and have as many eyeballs as we can while not insignificant, also getting paid. The revenue is significant and comes from the media rights and those media partners. And of course, that is the biggest deal with media rights is the revenue. So a lot to tackle here, a lot of things to look at. But at the end of the day, he does have it right that the media thing is the biggest deal because that's where most of your revenue comes from. And hedging the bets. I do think that hedging the bets is also a good idea because, like he said, you don't know which way it's going to go in the future. We know that broadcast TV is probably going to be the best bet in that situation. So I would focus a lot of energy on that. The other thing I would focus energy on is if you go to streaming, you're paying. People are paying for that streaming anyway. I would have as few commercials as possible on that streaming to absolutely no commercials. If at all possible. And the other thing that I want to bring up there is NASCAR has its own website. They have things where they can stream. I think another avenue that NASCAR is completely ignoring is having a commercial-free broadcast on NASCAR.com. Like if I could pay a set price like people do for the NFL Sunday ticket, I think that would, and I knew there were going to be no commercials in it. I think that would be an avenue, and you could just go to NASCAR.com and watch it for that set price. I think that's an avenue that they could go down and look at that they're basically not looking at because MLB's got a setup like that. I know, I think F1 has a setup like that, if I'm not mistaken. So there are sports where you can watch whatever game you want to watch. In NASCAR, there's only, one race at a time. But you can watch whatever you want to watch on those. And I think if NASCAR had theirs set up, I think they could get a significant number of people just directly giving them money to watch it on NASCAR.com. So I think that's another thing that they're just sort of not looking at, in my opinion. But the other thing is, I do like the fact, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I do like the fact that they are at least hedging their bets by testing the streaming market. Go ahead and get in that streaming market because if cable completely collapses, which it just keeps going down and down every single year, I think that the cable market, hedging your bets and trying some streaming, at least having your having an avenue over there is a good idea. So right now it's looking like Amazon, and I think they said Turner, and Turner I think would be like Turner Max or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the Turner deal would be, but I know Amazon would probably be your best bet because the most people have that right now. So I'll jump back into the comments before I get to the next quote, so we don't get too far behind here. Smoke for boss. Ben Kennedy is a little young, but he will be the boss one day. Yeah, he's definitely going to be the next guy in line. There's no doubt about that. I think it's AJ Allmendinger, says Diane. It looked a little too tall for AJ Allmendinger, but you never know. They can do funny things with cameras, and it looks slim, but they can also add a slimming effect to camera, so you never know. TV deal looks to come out this week. How many races do you think will be streamed? They're saying it's going to be 10 races, and possibly split between at least one partner, but possibly two partners. And the two partners mentioned by Adam Stern were Turner, and the other one, of course, being Amazon. Dale Jr. for president of NASCAR. What's up, BB, and the rest of the online family? What's up, T-Van? Yeah, Dale Jr. would be an interesting pick, but I think he's got his hands full with the car store, so I don't know. BB, any new diecast you bought on Black Friday, or did shopping at all? Did you set up a tent in front of Best Buy and wait hours and hours for a good deal? I didn't do any Black Friday shopping, to be totally honest with you. I did purchase some diecast, but I purchased them to get some customs done potentially in the future. So nothing really exciting. I basically bought some donors, more than I'm willing to pay to watch streams, says Mar Barnum. A lot of people are going to feel like that. That's for sure. The awards are on Hulu on the 30th. Okay, so the awards are on Hulu on the 30th. Somebody had me confused up here. I thought they were going on now. I was like, I hadn't heard about them. I will not pay. I will pay to not have. It's just going to be Cup Series team or Xfinity Series. So it's just going to be interesting as to what this whole deal is going to play out. And the official announcement is tomorrow. So we will find out tomorrow. My Toyota GR Supra was way faster than Xfinity 10G. Let's see here. Pit crew did their job. My crew chief made some good calls today. So there you go. In between the lanes, parking it here. So Daytona 500 could have 40 to 43 entries. The 13 Colleague, the 60 RFK, Beard 62, 2311, 67, Live Fast 78, Legacy 84, Trackhouse 91, less likely, MM, Money Team 50, and the RCR 33. Yeah, those are definitely all options. Can a team please just muster up the money and put a new car on track full time? And don't forget every once in a while Penske will throw one out there too. Penske ran the 33 for Austin Cindric, so don't count out Penske from time to time, like Scott McLaughlin or somebody like that, maybe jumping in there. Can a team please just muster up the money to put a new car on the track full time instead of another Project 91? I don't know. I'm sure they could. I think it's the payout scale and stuff like that. I think RFK setting the 60 back up for Deegan in 2025 could be. Max was an option, says one wise guy. Considering someone reported seeing Eric Almirola at RFK the past few weeks, not tough to figure out, says Jeff Jones. So there you go. Eric Almirola would fit the silhouette that I saw. So definitely a tall. To me, it looked like a taller and skinnier driver. So that would definitely line up with it being Eric Almirola. So there you go. There you go, Jeff. I like the way you're thinking there. Dale Jr. should have a position with NASCAR's higher ups. Let the Pied Piper do some creating. Seems to have the Midas touch, says Brickyard. They're still going to waste the money with Eric Almirola. You're not winning a championship with Eric Almirola. I have a hard. I don't know. He won his one race he was in last season in the Xfinity Series. It just depends on what series it's going to be in too. Like we still don't know which series it's in. I have a hard time believing Phelps is tone deaf and is more of a OEMs have constantly and consistently said they don't want more horsepower and people can't get it through their skull. His hands are tied, says Say Kyle, which is ironic because they put out street cars that have more horsepower than some of the horsepower numbers at Cup tracks. But it is what it is. Going to be interesting to see actual paint schemes, and we're going to get into the horsepower thing in just a minute. Going to be interesting to see the actual paint schemes with the new Camry and Mustang bodies in 2024. Says in between the lanes. Yeah, they look drastically different in how they went about designing them. So I'm going to be interested to see which one's faster at which tracks, or if one's just faster overall. So if they had go Amazon, that is dumb. $139 dollars a year for Amazon. Then your internet is way more than $100 I pay for my dish. Now that Harvick's gone, I feel like the last of the OG NASCAR drivers are gone. The NASCAR I knew is a memory. It's so futuristic now. I feel like a grandpa back in the day. Dale Jr. drove the Bud number 8 car, says Racing 85. Yeah, the sport always changes, and that's always going to be. There's nothing you can do to stop that. That's always going to happen, no matter what. It's always going to be different over the course of years. Problem with paying for no commercials is don't do it like IMSA and Peacock and have a blank screen during breaks. Yeah, I agree with that. You got to have something to fill the breaks. At least let us hear the cars and still cameras go around the track. I agree with that 100%. Hi, Baloney, able to catch the streams again. I had bought my first tractor, a 1941 Ford 9N. I've been busy overhauling it since being able to work on it with basic SAE tools and none of that metric BS. Says Angus 420. So there you go. Angus prefers the SAE tools to the metric. BB, who was the best barbecue, Kansas City or North Carolina? I'm going to go with North Carolina there all day, but all barbecue is good. You can't go wrong if you got some barbecue in front of you. BB, will the 49ers beat the Eagles on Sunday? I hope so. So there you go. That's all I can say about that. Hopefully our quarterback will stay healthy, and hopefully we can beat them. But it should be a good game. Literally 95% of the bolts were 11 16ths, and the rest were either a half, 9 16ths, 5 8ths, or 1 1/8. Yeah, nowadays you got to have both sets of wrenches for a lot of cars. Mark Martin's going to make a comeback, says PC gone rogue. He said he's never going to get in a race car again, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. 1/16th, not 1/8, says Angus. Eric is a Ford guy too. BB, what TV shows do you hate the most? I don't know. That's a good question. I have to think about that one. The view would have to be high up there for sure. Let's see. Could be the other supercar driver for the 60. I think the 60 is going to be either Frankie Munoz or Carl Edwards. If it's just going to run the 500, says Angus 420. Pretty much any morning show. To go back to the TV shows, I hate pretty much any morning show because I hate it that they're that happy that early in the morning, and it really just irks me. With the exception of like Good Morning Arizona, when I was out in Phoenix, I was watching something Good Morning Arizona. They were less annoying. So I don't know. That one was okay. I did the tall silhouette with the cowboy hat and sunglasses. Says Brickyard Brickhead. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be RP. He's a Toyota man right now. I just woke up and missed most of the show. Any word on Fontana? No word on Fontana as of yet. Other than they're destroying it right now, and we don't know which direction they're going with it. Once I get back home, let's see. Frankie Munoz was the Grand Marshal for the 2001 Daytona 500. He has Ford money backing him. So yeah, there you go. Frankie Munoz will be another one that fits there. Let's see. How about the snow game with Iowa State and K-State? Says Mark Barnum. I didn't watch that one. I haven't watched a ton of sports other than NASCAR. I cannot stand my 600 pound. That's another one. I hate that one. Angus 420. Yeah, I agree. I think those shows are stupid. My Big Fat Life. I hate that one too. My mom watches that one. It really, really gets on my nerves. Anything on Lifetime, I get. I feel like Lifetime has made the same. It's not even a TV show because I guess technically it's a movie. But I feel like Lifetime has made the same movie. They just put it in different settings every time. Yeah, those movies. They just get so repetitive. Like the first time it probably was like a good movie. Then after that, it just same movie over and over again. Oh God, no morning shows. No, says Angus 420. Yeah, not those people. Talking about the morning shows. Yeah, the morning shows are not my favorite at all. Shah says, hello, folks. No, don't remind me, says Angus 420. I'd love to see Dale Jarrett run one more race in something SRX. That would be pretty cool. Dale Jarrett and SRX, I think, would be that would be an interesting deal. What was the torture every morning waking up for school? The Today Show. Oh yeah, that was definitely on back in the day. So they did the Today Show wasn't on by the time I was getting ready to go to school. But it was the local channel had their morning show on. But the morning show back then was just regular news. Like they just did basically a repeat of the news the night before. 5 inches of snow for that game, says Mark Barnum. That's going to be pretty wild. Or if it's already happened, I'm not sure 100%. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, BB? What's up, Ralph? Good to see you on here, my friend. Who cares about Steve Phelps? Just a figurehead. He just vocalizes the board's decisions. Yeah, I mean that's most commissioners or whatever he is. That's pretty much what they use him for. That's all Roger Goodell is in the NFL. Pretty much just a figurehead to take all the heat off of, in Roger Goodell's case, the owners. In this case, for Steve Phelps, takes the heat for NASCAR's decision. Morning shows are all too happy for 7 a.m., says Duke Chronic. I agree with you 100% there, Duke Chronic. All right, let's jump in to the next hailstorm of quotes where he talks about the money. We're going to save the horsepower for last because that's the one that everybody got fired up about. Race teams want three things, or so they have told us, Phelps said. They want to be competitive on the racetrack, which right now, that's a check. They want to increase their enterprise value with their charters. That has been a check. They want to have a path to profitability. That's not a check right now. It's not. Our race teams, by and large, are losing money at the cup level. That is something that we need to solve. You have to solve with two key pillars. And here's where it's going to get sort of wonky. One is to make sure that they get additional revenue. So they're interested in getting more revenue from the sanctioning body and tracks through the purse. That is something that we need to do. The only way you can do that is to have increases in your media rights, which is what they're doing today. So we're unsure what that is. When we have more clarity, we'll understand what those financials look like. Second, and not small, honestly, is some type of cost containment. So whether that's in the form of a cap, which would be a cap to their costs that they can spend, which would be a nightmare. Let me just finish the quote before I jump into it. Or whether that's in the form of parts and pieces that make up the next-gen car or trying to limit those pieces. I don't know where they're going to net out on that. I'm not suggesting that our race teams can cut their way to success. I'm not suggesting that because I've been accused of that in the past because that's exactly what you said in the past, but that's neither here nor there. There needs to be a mixture of those things, but both are important. So that's the one where this is the one where it's kind of like if you go back to Prohibition back in the day, it's more expensive to prohibit somebody to do something than it is to just let them do it and enforce a rule. So if they really want to limit, first off, the idea of trying to save the organizational body, trying to save teams from themselves, to me, how much a team spends is on the team. If you're spending $1 million to win $100,000 purse, that's on the team. So that's the team's fault. The team needs to set a budget and go by the budget. That being said, it's going to sound hypocritical, but it's not. The teams do need to get more money from NASCAR in the TV deals and in the purses of the races they're winning, because that's just something you've got to do, something you got to negotiate. For the longest time, it has been way, way, way too far in favor of NASCAR. The fact that NASCAR is willing to lose money on stuff like the Chicago race and probably, I would imagine, are losing money on the race in LA just tells me that NASCAR has money to burn. And if NASCAR has money to burn, those teams need to get organized like they've done. They need to get organized, and they need to get a better cut of that TV money and those race payouts to make it make sense for the amount of money they're spending. Now, to his point of trying to prohibit the teams from spending money, that is actually going to drive up the cost more than anything else, because you're not going to stop them from spending money. They're going to find ways to spend money on other things. Like we saw, they took away the pit guns because Penske was spending money to make pit guns that were faster than everybody else's pit guns. Race teams, no matter what rule you put in place, and I'm talking about they're going to mandate parts, right? You can mandate all the parts you want to. Race teams are going to try to figure out where they've got any type of area that they can modify something, and they will spend whatever money that they were spending over here. They'll take it and spend it over here since we can't spend it over here anymore. So the only thing that they could actually do is put a cap on it. And then you've got to worry about, well, how do we know if they're spending more money than the cap? So it's just going to be an absolute mess to try to figure this out. So that's why I say it's insane for the sanctioning body to try to save teams from themselves. The teams, if you're spending too much money, you have to set a budget and abide by that budget. If you're spending, like I said, if you're spending $1 million to win $100,000 race, whose fault is that? Like that's your fault for not following your own budget. At some point, you have to use some level of common sense. Just because Hendrick has infinity $1 billion doesn't mean you need to go out and spend like Hendrick when you don't necessarily have it. So, I mean, it is what it is. You've got to take some responsibility if you're not making money. Kind of on yourself. Like if you can't abide by a budget, like that's we're all adults. Like if you can't abide by a budget, that's kind of on you. Now there are different factors in racing. Like if there's a bunch of wrecks and stuff like that, it's hard to build. Like you have some seasons where you just have so many wrecks that you can't. They factor in wrecks in their budget. I know that, but there are going to be some seasons where you have more wrecks than you accounted for. So there will be situations like that. But at the end of the day, a race team is a business, and you have to set a budget. So I feel like part of it is on the teams, and NASCAR thinking that they can save the teams from themselves is just it's ludicrous in my opinion, because you can't. They're always going to spend as much money as they feel like spending, and they're always going to say we spent too much money, because it's just the way it is. It's just the way racing is at every single level. There's late model teams that spend God knows how much money trying to win $1,000 or $800 late model race from time to time. $3,000. I think it's South Boston and Ace Speedway. So it's just it's something that I don't see them ever fixing. And the fact that they're trying to worry about it, the best solution to this is to give them more TV money and NASCAR stop doing this frivolous spending on stuff like rebuilding a racetrack every single season in LA. Just build a permanent racetrack somewhere in California and let's keep it moving. All right. That's my thoughts on that one. Al Roker was the only good part of today's show. Good weatherman can make or break a network, in my opinion, says Angus. 7 a.m. I don't get out of bed until 10 a.m., says Mark Barnum. That must be a good life, brother. The next gen will be cheaper than before. Lied. Then he said those cars are running 35. That's what I just that's actually what I was just talking about, Cody. So to my point, NASCAR has tried to mandate something and make these cars cheaper. And what happens? The cars are now more expensive than they were when the teams were fabricating them themselves. So, like I said, prohibition, in this case, prohibiting teams from trying to spend too much money, they've created the exact opposite of what they were trying to get rid of. Horsepower. It don't cost that much money, says Mark Barnum. We're going to get that in just a second. BB to the next one on the Big Bite Pizza Reviews with Dave Portnoy. That would be a sweet job to have. Just testing pizzas in various cities. That would be pretty cool. BB, what was the worst Dale Jr. crash in your opinion? Probably the one in the Corvette where it caught on fire, where he still got the burns on his neck from that one. That would, to me, that would have to be the worst wreck. If they quit putting on a show, says Thomas Nichols, NASCAR is obligated to do Chicago again. They already have money down. This stuff they had to. All the stuff they had to build for last race, says Duke Chronic. Yeah, they're contractually obligated. But I'm saying if NASCAR, it's not a good look for NASCAR to talk about we're spending money in Chicago and we're losing money on Chicago, and then turn right around and say, hey, the teams are not making any money because NASCAR is taking in too much of the TV money. That's basically the bottom line. NASCAR for the longest time is taking in too much of the TV money, and they basically tell on themselves every time they say something crazy like we're losing money in Chicago. It was a success. So, basically, I'm not saying don't race in Chicago, but they have a racetrack already in Chicago. Race at the racetrack that you already have built in Chicago. Don't spend all this money on a street course and take that money you would have spent on the street course and put it back in the purses or put it back in the TV money that goes to the teams. I mean, it's not rocket science. It is what it is. Remember when Penske built the 20-foot fuel tower with a 4-inch hose, says Angus. Yeah, so like I said, they will find ways to spend the money. Like they're good luck prohibiting race teams from spending money. Also, by the way, that's my thought. Make the rule go nuts, but you can't spend more than X amount. Says Angus 420. Yeah, but then NASCAR is gonna have to hire people to figure out which teams are spending what. So it's gonna be interesting. First of all, NASCAR needs to stop blocking sponsors from coming into the sport just because they have a similar sponsor in the sport already. That's another thing. Exclusive rights and stuff like that. That's another thing where they could possibly make some more money for the teams there too. Common sense. What's that? Says Shy. Nextel got rid of Singular. Who else? NASCAR has blocked money coming into the sport many times. Yeah, it gets crazy for stuff like that. And now I don't think there's a single cellular provider in NASCAR. I can't recall one. I know IndyCar had the Verizon car. It was the Verizon IndyCar series for a long time, but I can't remember the last time I saw a cell phone provider in the Cup Series. That was Sonoma with the Corvette, says one wise guy, talking about Junior's wreck, the worst wreck for Junior. BB, what auto part store do you like the most, and what's the worst? Chambers Automotive is the one I go to, but I guess as far as a chain store goes, the one I've had the best luck with parts wise would be either Napa. CarQuest was my favorite back in the day, but there's not too many of them around anymore, at least where I'm at. But Napa and AutoZone, when I get parts from them, they seem to hold up better. I heard Advance is better now, but back in the day when I got parts from Advance, they didn't seem to last as long as the parts I got from AutoZone and Napa. So AutoZone and Napa seem to be are pretty much the ones I go to when I need parts. Aside from any NASCAR racing diecast, BB, do you own any production car diecast? Not that I've bought. I think I've got like a few here and there. That were gifted to me, but I don't think I have two. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I've got like an A-Team van, but I don't think that's like a production run. Verizon sponsored Logano this past year. Okay, so Verizon is still in it over there with Penske. Let's see. I remember Bud, Coors, and Miller sponsored. Yeah, so that's another one. All the beer brands. I guess they don't see value, the same value in NASCAR anymore. You have. I think Keystone, I think Miller does one race a year now with Penske, and they use their Keystone brand. Busch has sponsored Harvick, and then they're going to go over there and sponsor Ross Chastain. So Busch has been the one that stuck around. But Miller Coors has, since they've merged, they're down to one race. So you just don't see it. You just don't see it like it was back in the day. The best auto parts store are the ones that are privately owned. Yeah, for sure. PC gone rogue. That's what I was getting at there. Get in the zone, AutoZone, in between the lanes. All right, so let's get to the one that everybody wants to talk about. Let's talk about the horsepower quote. So here we go. Should I even read the whole thing, or should I just get to the point? Get to the one that everybody wants to raise their pitchforks and what are the pitchforks and torches? Here we go. He talks about for the foreseeable future, we're going to have 38 races on the calendar. Phelps said of the Cup schedule, our season is long enough. I don't see that expanding. So that's good. I don't think they need to expand the schedule. They could actually add more races, like have like a midway or go like a double. But they definitely don't need to expand the schedule. They actually probably need to take a date away and then do like they did at Pocono that one year, run back-to-back races there on Saturday and Sunday. I think that would be more reasonable. But anyway, then he goes on to further say, blah, 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 blah. One change not expected to be made at any point in the future is increasing the horsepower. I don't think the answer is more horsepower because more horsepower is expensive. According to an engine builder, and I can't remember who said it, having more horsepower would not be any more expensive than it is now. But I guess I'll get into that. I'll just read the quote. Phelps said, if you ask the drivers what's going to solve it, they're always going to say, give me more horsepower. It's a thing. I'm not a driver, but I've listened to enough drivers, and that's their solution. So the question is really what it is. I don't know. I think there are some gearing things we're looking at as well, and some shifting things. So before I jump into it and just totally tear down that argument, you've already heard what one of my arguments is going to be. They refuse to do the horsepower thing. So first off, I don't think that is from a Steve Phelps perspective. I don't think that NASCAR is ignoring that. There is some outside pressure, or there is some other reason that they don't want to increase the horsepower. There could be some mechanical thing that they don't think will handle the amount of horsepower being put to it consistently, where it wouldn't have to get rebuilt or something like that. Like something in the drive line. So that's one thing that could 100% be what they're talking about. The other thing is it could be pressure from the OEMs because the OEMs want to keep costs down from their side of it. That could be another angle. So there are, and I think somebody mentioned that earlier in the chat. That could be another thing that they're looking at there. So I don't think it's necessarily all Steve Phelps' decision. But what I find interesting about it is they will try. NASCAR is so quick to try anything they feel like trying, right? Like we've tried this new playoff system since 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. They immediately jumped to that, and we're going to try that. They want to try. They've tried aerodynamic stuff with the short track package. They're going to try some gearing stuff with the short track package to get rid of the shifting. They're willing to try a whole lot of things, but what drivers keep asking for and what fans keep asking for is horsepower. and they won't try that. And it's kind of crazy because, like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of OEMs that have street cars that have more horsepower than the Cup cars do at some of the tracks that they go to, which is a little bit ironic. There are engine builders that have basically said putting more horsepower in these engines wouldn't necessarily cost us any more money. Not to mention, in 2012, these engines had more horsepower than they have now. So it's not like they would have to do a whole lot of research to figure out how to get the horsepower back. So the research has already been done. These engines haven't changed. They've just restricted the engines by a formula, essentially, and by a a tapered spacer or whatever they call it. So the argument just doesn't seem to hold weight or make any sense, especially when you see NASCAR trying all kinds of stuff all the time. So I just I don't get it. Like, are they going to try everything else and then finally admit that, hey, maybe we should try more horsepower? I think a skinnier tire or a tire that has more fall off would also be something that's very helpful, because I think one of the biggest problems is the tires are too wide. So I think that's an issue too that doesn't get addressed, but that's why people want more horsepower, because the more horsepower you get, it doesn't matter how wide the tires are. If you have enough horsepower, it's going to be hard to keep traction in those tires because it's just going to be harder to drive. So, and in theory, if you gave it enough horsepower, not at all tracks, like I don't think you could get rid of the shifting at Martinsville, but there are some tracks where if you had enough horsepower, I think like a Bristol or a Richmond, if you have enough horsepower at those tracks, you would get rid of the shifting. In my opinion, because you're carrying enough speed there. But let's see what you guys thought about it. O'Reilly Auto Parts is the best parts store around anymore. Used to be AutoZone back in the day, says T-Van. BD, who has the worst phone carrier service around here? It is AT&T. I was trying to say Alltel, but it's not Alltel anymore. AT&T is the worst phone service where I'm at. Cool. Air plus fuel equals horsepower, says Tony. B, how expensive is it to go to a local short track racing every week? Ballpark, says OJ. It just depends on what you're driving. Like if you want to do I've seen some people do limited deals, like what would be the overall cost? So you're probably going to pay like $1,000 for your help. Then tires, if you get 4 tires, the tires are going to be around 6 or 7, sometimes 8, just depending on the track. So you're at 18, let's say 2,000 right there. Then another 200 or 300 for gas. So I would say 2,300 to 2,500 would be the cheapest. Now, if you can do the like if you got a family that can do the labor yourselves, obviously you can get by for like 1,500 a race. So that would be, I think that would be the cheapest. I think I could see somebody doing it. And that's if you do all the work yourself. So like maybe 1,500 a race, but that's not factoring. And that's a local track where you don't have to sleep at a hotel. You're not, if it's close enough, you're not going to factor your drive with your hauler and stuff, like the gas for the hauler. But there's other stuff that you just can't account for. You got to feed the crew, at least have snacks and stuff like that. It's just all kinds of stuff that adds up. Then you got to pay, your like $40 back gate fee for how many people you have. So it's just all kinds of stuff that creeps up. So I would say probably 2,300 all said and done is probably the cheapest you're going to get it done. And if you hire somebody, I would say closer to 35. Most late model teams are going to be, I would say like 6,000 to 1,600 to run a late model, depending on what series you're running in and if it's a local track. So it gets insane. And like I just said, 6,000 for one race, right? And you're only racing most tracks. Like if you race in South Boston, I think it's a $3,000 purse. Or they have twins, two twin races, a $1,500 purse, right? So you got to win both races to get the 3,000 a lot of times. So Cars Tour, I think, is $6,000 to win a normal race, and then they got some $10,000 races here and there, and then they've got the Old North State National, which I think is $30,000 or $40,000 to win. So it depends on the purse and stuff like that. So you can, and I think it's $1,000 in the Cars Tour if you start just starting money. I think is like right at $1,000. So it's all kinds of factors in it. But I tell you what, Landon Huffman? I think Landon Huffman has a whole video about how much it costs. It might just be to build a car, but he has a good video on how much it costs. So it's an interesting question. it's hard for me to answer it because I've got people that help me out at a much discounted price for when I'm going to go make my events. So hard for me to quantitate it, but I would say 6,000 to 16,000 for a late model, depending on whose car you're jumping in. LOL, I can double my lawnmower horsepower, just bore out the carb and turn up the fuel, says Angus 420. It takes me about 20 minutes. What's up, B? Good to see you on here. My friend, Angus 420 and $5. So they had 20 minutes and $5. Let's see. Or you could just open up the throttle and spray ether into it. That's another route. Let's see. Mark Barnum, what's up, EV? EV saying, hey to Mark, didn't Project 56 run a 24-hour race with, there you go, 750 horsepower. Also think the real answer is they need to go with narrower tires, says Cody. That's where I'm at with it too. I think they've got to figure out some way to narrow up the tires, or at least make the tires fall off a whole lot if they're not going to make them narrow. But I'm with you. I think going with a more narrow tire is one of the things that needs to happen for sure, because those tires are just too wide. I agree with you on that 100%. P2P, NOS at road courses. OEM should be concerned with 358 cubic inches and let the teams figure out how to mix their fuel and air, says Tony. I agree with that. They don't need a 3,000-mile tire like they got now, says Duke Chronic. Yeah, the tires need more fall off too. But I say also they need to be skinnier. The tires are just way too wide. At least make them skinnier on short tracks. Let's see. Give them the regular street tires. Let them choose between stock tires. There you go. You have to run a stock tire. That I don't know that would work though, because you still have to have a tire that's rated for the speeds they're going. So I don't know that that's a perfect solution either. What about a 2-speed trans for short tracks? They would scream about cost again over there, even though you can get like they could mandate that you have to get one from Jegs or something for like $2,000 or $3,000. You could get one at Jegs, and it would probably last them a whole season. Let's see. Goodyear has like 100 different tires, says Angus 420. I was thinking adding horsepower would have to be more money, but to shore up everything around the car to match the new horsepower. But I wouldn't think it wouldn't cost that much. Yeah, I mean, considering that they basically introduced a whole new car even last year, because they made modifications to the existing next gen car, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's good luck making racing affordable. Like, good luck. Like that. I mean, like, good luck. Just make teams stick to a budget. And if they lose money, that's on them for not sticking to their budget. So, I mean, and I hate it because I do think they should get more TV money. The teams need to get more TV money. That is the ultimate answer to this. And NASCAR has finally come around to that. So they just need to give them better purses and more TV money, and just stop with this. Teams need to figure out a way to cut costs and stuff like that. Because when NASCAR's sitting there building basically 2 racetracks per year, and then saying the teams need to cut costs, like, that just doesn't add up. NASCAR is taking way too much of the revenue. No replacement for displacement, says Angus 420. Make NASCAR fun again. Yeah, I agree, man. I'm so tired of these negative stories. Can't we just talk about something fun? Like, why can't NASCAR just do something and not screw it up? Like, come on. We're not far off from someone just starting a whole new series, says Angus 420. I agree. I think the teams have basically not bluffed, but they basically said, hey, look, either do what we want or we'll go race, and you can find some other teams to take our spots. What's the one series that runs old Cup, Busch cars, trucks, ARCA, all of them on one track? I'm not 100% sure about that one. Other than like a track days where you see all kinds of different cars from everywhere. BB, have you ever gotten to the point where you said, nope, I'm done with NASCAR, never watching again, LOL? I was pretty close to it after that truck race at Phoenix. That was probably my least favorite moment in the past 5 or 6 years, I would say. Like, I was just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? That truck race was terrible. That's what NASCAR needs. Allow old cars again, in my opinion. Some people liked it. Old cars again, says Angus 420. Allow the trucks to race the cars. At a road course, that might work. Has traction control been taken away? Would be a benefit tool with the current package, says Brickyard Brickhead. I don't think traction control was ever legalized. I know a lot of people probably used it, but I don't think it was ever legal. What's the Bristol purse? They don't post the purses anymore. I think the most purse information you can get is from 2016, and that's because it came out in the lawsuit with BK Racing, where they filed for bankruptcy and all that stuff. They posted some of the 2016 purses. But back in the day, when newspapers were a thing, I don't know if you guys remember reading the newspapers. they would do the points, and right beside the points was exactly how much money each driver made. Let's see here. Now that Harvick and Junior own the Cars Tour, have you met them yet? I hadn't. I don't think so. I've been at the same track when they were there, but I haven't met them or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure they don't know who I am. So yeah, let's see here. Hey, say Kyle says BB, would Truex still be in the 78 to this day if they never shut down Furniture Row Racing? I've definitely been at the same track when they were there because I was at Wilkesboro and everybody was there. Let's see here this year. BB, would Truex still be in the 78 to this day if they never shut down Furniture Row Racing? I think so. And I think he would probably be a lot happier. Furniture Row, if the owner just didn't decide that it was too expensive and he hadn't done everything he set out to do, I think Martin Truex Jr. would still be at Furniture Row. And I think it would just be a much happier situation. I think he's happy enough at Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm not trying to take a shot at Joe Gibbs Racing. He just seemed a lot happier. Cole Pearn for sure didn't want to leave, right? So Cole Pearn, he did his 1 year at Gibbs, and then he was out. But I think if Furniture Row's still running, you would still have Cole Pearn and Martin Truex Jr. together for sure. The driver silhouette looked like David Reagan to me. He says Airbus. So right now, the big ones seem to be Eric Almirola, because he was seen talking to Roush folks, and the silhouette does seem to fit Almirola. David Reagan, it would seem to fit him too because he's also tall. And the other one that I've heard is Trevor Bayne. A lot of people thinking it's Trevor Bayne. So those seem to be the big three that everybody is gravitating toward. I've seen a lot of AJ Allmendingers in here too, but it was way too tall for AJ Allmendinger in my opinion. And AJ Allmendinger is going to be with colleagues, so we'll have to we'll see who they announce tomorrow. If they're not going to increase horsepower, and I'll throw it up as a poll question here in just a minute. If they're not going to increase horsepower, they should run a prime option tire, which requires each team must run, mix up the strategy, gives you comers and goers. I agree. Go with like a 3-tire deal, 3 options like they have in IndyCar. I think that would help. Kenny Wallace is sponsored by Jegs, along with Troy Coughlin Jr. in the NHRA. That's a fact. Better money in the outlaw racing. It is right now. Rich people problems. We don't make enough money. $40 million for a charter. Says yeah. It's hard to have sympathy for people that are spending millions and then complaining about they couldn't abide by their budget. BB, have you rewatched the full truck race on YouTube, the championship 2020, like Earth 2? Yeah, so that truck race is Earth 2 every season. Like they just except we got a 3-spin rule, so some of those guys would have been taken out by the 3-spin rule. How awesome would it be for NASCAR to come out and wave the yellow line rule for the last lap of the Daytona 500? It would be an epic move, says Dirty Death. Yeah, I say the last couple laps, get rid of the yellow line rule. It really shouldn't be a thing anyway, but it is what it is. It feels more like a legal thing, like some some insurance lawyers made them put it in there, but I don't know. I meant the purse when you raced the Cars Tour there. I think you can look at Kyle Larson's check, or not Kyle Larson. He won. Who? You can look at Augie Grill's check. Look at Augie Grill's. Google Augie Grill, North Wilkesboro winner, or Butterbean McQueen, Wilkesboro winner, and just look at their checks. But normally it's $6,000, but because it's North Wilkesboro, I'm going to say that is going to be a bigger check. I think it was probably $10,000 for the North Wilkesboro win, if I'm remembering off the top of my head correctly, which is not always accurate. But I think a normal Cars Tour race is either $6,000 for the win or $6,500 for the win. That's going to be your standard average win money in the Cars Tour. Same with the Wilkesboro Cars Tour race, says Angus 420. Something that was fun was the 2.4 hours of Le Mullets. Says Mark Barnum. Yeah, Le Mullets is always a good one. I'm a fan of Phelps being completely contrary, and literally his quotes make no sense. He comes across as someone completely being held hostage to say things to make execs happy, says Bumblebee. Yeah, 100% agree with you. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier. He is just a figurehead to say whatever the NASCAR head honchos want him to say. Just like in the NFL, Roger Goodell is just the figurehead to say whatever the NFL owners want Roger Goodell to say. So it's not all on Steve Phelps, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like Steve Phelps would be like a good dude to talk to and meet, but like I wouldn't put too much stock into what he says at these press conferences. Because, like you're saying, it's not 100% like his actual opinion on what he wants to do. He speaks for the board basically. Trevor Bayne, and which several people have said in here, but we're just reiterating that. Trevor Bain, not a bad commentator, says in between. Like, yeah, Trevor Bain, definitely a good commentator. And I hope he gets a few more races. But like, if the rumors are true that Eric Almirola was at Roush, I'm going to have to lean. It's probably Eric Almirola. But I'll throw that poll up here in just a minute. AJ Allmendinger had a late growth spurt, says Finn Kluber. He was an NFL guy, right? He might just be in over his head. Yeah, that's the other thing. And I mentioned that earlier for those who weren't here. He keeps trying to NFL things in NASCAR, and NASCAR and NFL are totally different. Let's see. Danny Lawrence at RCR, director of the Xfinity Series, let it slip on SiriusXM that he's excited to be working more closely with AJ again next season. Sounds obvious. Yeah, AJ is going to be back at college or RCR, which is basically out of the same building. So, he'll be back over there. NASCAR needs an actual leader, not a committee. Yeah, I agree with that. That's what made it good, and I'm going to end the poll here. That's what made it good in the Bill France era. Bill France was he was judge, jury, and overseer. Not the button I wanted to hit there. Here we go. Let's see. Well, I'll throw Cousin Carl in there, even though that's not going to happen. I'm going to throw it in. Well, yeah, I'm going to throw it in there. If Carl Edwards comes back, it'll be a part-time deal, and I'm pretty sure they want to run that car full-time. But he could be one of the drivers they put in it if they're going to do it like a Trackhouse thing in Cup. We also don't know if it's going to be Cup or Xfinity, so there's a lot of debate on that too. So we'll just have to see. Right now, early on, it looks like 43% Eric Almirola, 29% Trevor Bain, and 29% Cousin Carl. David Reagan, no votes as of yet. So we'll have to see how it goes here. Working with colleague in Xfinity with the RCR partner, says Dirty Def. Yeah. So he'll, like I said, colleague is basically, they haven't said it, but they basically said AJ Allmendinger is going to be there as long as they got a car. I know who the driver of the number 60 car is. It's the Baloney Man, says Big Will Hawaii. Yeah, they're. I don't have a NASCAR license for a super speedway, nor am I anywhere close to it. So they're gonna need somebody that's not me. That's for sure. Let's see here. Big Will Hawaii, not a bad choice. Says in between the lanes. Yeah, I once finished third in a go-kart race at Cub Creek. And by once, I mean last week. So that's my best. Most recently, that's my best finish. So going off those statistics alone, I will throw my name in the hat to not get that job. So we'll see what happens going forward. Let's see what else happened today in the world of NASCAR. I feel like we're missing something. I feel like they talked about something else today too that I totally missed. So they announced it once again. They've announced this several times, but the Daytona 500 is sold out. There are a few standing room only seats, but they've once again they said this once earlier, but they said it again today. I just want to let you know that the Daytona 500 is sold out once again, I guess. And NASCAR continues to test global waters. NASCAR Brazil. So Brazil is getting NASCAR Brazil sprint race. Let's see what this is about. NASCAR ran its first season in Brazil this past year, and it highly welcomed news for NASCAR execs. The ratings for the Sports US-based Cup Series rose in Brazil this year, concurrently with the introduction of the new regional series. I like to tell people that I don't think it's a coincidence. This is at NASCAR.com, or this is the Sports Business Journal from Adam Stern, by the way. I like to tell people that I don't think coincidence, but we put that series down there and it raised the profile of the Cup Series. The domino effect of all this is that Brazil can now be added to the list of potential sites to take the NASCAR Cup Series global. Meanwhile, last week, NASCAR announced the changing of the name of its Canadian Regional League from the Penske Series to the NASCAR Canada Series. So there you go. NASCAR making some inroads. So add Brazil, I guess, to the list of where they might have the next international race. So there you go. It's Greg Biffle, says Escobar. So there you go. I'd be okay with it being Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle, another sort of a tall guy relative to race car drivers. So it could be him. My heart says Carl, but my brain says Reagan, or Eric says say Kyle. I think it's Eric Amarola, but that's just me personally. Somebody in here already spilled it. I think it was John or somebody spilled it earlier. Maybe Josh. I feel like it started with a J, but he spilled it earlier. There are rumors that Eric Amarola had been talking to RFK, so I feel like it's going to be Eric Amarola. Well, there's very few with as much charm and character, says Big Will Hawaii. Yeah, so I guess I could be like, I don't know, one of those drivers that's really good with the sponsors and stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily have the production on the track. It's definitely David Reagan, says Bumblebee. So B, going with David Reagan. Let's look at the poll real quick right now. Oh my goodness, a rarity. 25% for each. 25% for Cousin Carl, 25% for Trevor Bain, 25% for David Reagan, and 25% for Eric Amarola. 24 votes, 4 minutes in. We'll see how this plays out. Nice, Mark Martin. Yeah, definitely when you see somebody that tall and that skinny, you immediately think Mark Martin. So I'm with you there, Angus 420. On Earth 2, it is Mark Martin. He's never left the 60 Winn-Dixie car. Let's see if anyone is still using Swarm or Foursquare back from 2014. I became the mayor of Daytona International Speedway today while at work. Hey, there you go. There you go. Foursquare. Man, look at that. Look at that. Dude, I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't even thought about that word in God knows how long. I forgot all about that stuff. I hear you say, Kyle. Lovey, what's up, my friend? He said, oh, no, I'm late. Oh, you're all good, man. We're still rolling here. Oh, great. The execs are happy about Brazil, says Shaw. So there you go. The Canada race, I guess, didn't quite work out. But maybe Brazil, maybe they're trying to put pressure on Canada with the Brazil race because they were trying to. The big rumor is not a well-kept rumor or whatever. They're trying to go to Montreal this year, but it didn't pan out. Said CM Punk. So yeah. In case you didn't know, if you're a wrestling fan, CM Punk came back last night, so that was a big headline. Let's see, BB, what current driver do you dislike the most? Says OJ and Toothpaste. That's a good question. I don't know. I'll probably whoever the two guys that outrun me at the go-kart race this other week. That would have to be the drivers on the top of my head right now. I don't really dislike any cup drivers. I get that question a lot. I don't have anything against any cup driver. Back in the day, when I was a diehard Earnhardt fan, there was a lot of drivers I didn't like because they weren't Dale Earnhardt. But nowadays, I don't know. I don't have that guy I pull for. Like I pull for Kyle Larson, I pull for Kyle Busch, and anybody in the 43, the 3, or RCR, or anything petty affiliated. And I was a Kevin Harvick man, but he's retired now. When Earnhardt passed, I went with Kevin Harvick. But now that all those, Kevin Harvick is the first driver I've pulled for that I've seen his entire career from start to finish. So I don't have a driver to pull for like that. And when you don't have a driver to pull for like that, it's hard to have a driver that you hate. So there's not a driver that there's not even a driver in the Cup Series that I dislike or any other series for that matter. So it's just I don't know. It's just a different way. It's just a different way of looking at it now because I just don't have that dude I pull for diehard like I pulled for Earnhardt and then Kevin Harvick. Let's see. Look at the parody. The parody says Bumblebee. You just like Marty Robbins, a real star. Hey, Marty Robbins was the man, dude. Like that was he also had great looking cars too. So if it ever happens, we're gonna have to make sure we have a good looking car like Marty Robbins to make sure everybody knows which car it is on the racetrack as it goes several laps down. I'm not sure if you talked about this already, but what are your thoughts on the new Camry for 2024? I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Camry or the Ford is faster. Now, and I talked about it. Somebody they took away the black part of the wrap on the Camry, and when you take away that black part that connected it made like the grill look like it goes all the way up. It actually made it look a lot better because you could see more details in the nose. In that, with the black part of the wrap on it, it just looks like a straight flat nose. But when they took that part off, you could actually see some curves and creases in the Toyota that made it look marginally better. Still not, in most people's opinion, still not a great looking car. But that being said, it does have more angularity in the nose than what it looked like in that original picture. But that being said, the Mustang looks 100 times better. But what I worry about with the Mustang is, if you remember in 2018 or so, when Chevrolet came out with the Camaro, whenever they came out with the Camaro, when they first went to the Camaro, I can't even remember what year it was. I want to say 2018. That Camaro looked mean. It looked really fast, but it sucked on the racetrack. Austin Dillon won the Daytona 500, and the only other Chevrolet driver, and he won multiple races that year, to win in that car was Chase Elliott. So even though that car looked really fast on the racetrack, it was really slow. So I worry that one of those cars, either the Toyota or the Ford, is going to be way off. And that's the most interesting thing about the design of the Camry. I want to see which one of those cars is fastest at which track, or if one of those cars is just way faster overall than the other car, because it looks to me like totally different design languages that they went with. Anyone here a car salesman to this bar? Not that I know of, but there's probably somebody in here. Happy execs are not good for fans. I agree with that. Say Kyle says, and AM. Let's see. Randy Orton came back too. Says Bumblebee. There you go. That tells you how long it's been since I watched it. I didn't even know Randy Orton was gone. So it's been a hot minute. I need to get back on. I need to get back into it. I was a big Bray Wyatt fan. So when Bray Wyatt went away, and now like obviously not coming back, but I lost interest in it. That was my dude. So I guess I'll have to tune back into it. They should race in Japan again, says John Shaw. Yeah, those were two special races for sure. I never got the hype for CM Punk. Yeah, he's never been a guy that got over with me too. I call him CM Junk, says Bumblebee. HMS sucks. Agree, Bumblebee. Is Larry Mack coming back to the booth? I hope so. I think that would be cool. But it's going to be interesting to see what Fox does over there. Never dislike anyone for 50 years now. Sorry to say, I've got a few, says Big Wheel. Don't forget Kyle Weatherman, BB. Oh, yeah, anybody named Kyle, by the way. Kyle C, Kyle Weatherman. Like, they're all part of the gang. Let's see. I like dislike and wins. LOL, says B. You like Rick Ware? I like Rick Ware for sure. Let's see. His son. I'm not a big fan of his son's actions. But he's not a driver anymore, so he doesn't technically count. Growing up, my friends only saw me Sunday if Dale Earnhardt was out of the race. LOL, says Escobar. Yeah, that's for sure. That was also the other thing back in the day. Like when my driver went out, like I would just stop watching. Now, if any of my drivers do poorly, I just keep watching because I'm like, it is what it is. BB, who is what else am I going to do at this point? Let's see. BB, who is the worst NASCAR driver of all time? Danica Patrick, OJ Face. I used to despise Jimmy Johnson. Now he owns the Ford. And I didn't dislike Danica Patrick when she was driver. It's when she retired and started opening her mouth. That's when I disliked her. But I would have to say, pound for pound, probably the worst stock car driver I've ever seen is probably Danica Patrick. I used to despise Jimmy Johnson. Now he owns the 43, so I'm confused. So Jimmy Johnson, I didn't dislike him or anything like that. He just won too much, and to me, he had more of a personality when he got on Twitter. But before he was on Twitter, he would just say whatever the sponsors wanted him to say on TV. So it's sort of a bland TV personality. Then he started getting spicy on Twitter. Let's see here. Hello, Kyle. We have a lot of favorite drivers too, says Daniel. Hey, there you go. There's nothing wrong. Pull for all the drivers. There's some people that pull against one driver and pull for every other driver to beat that driver. So that was as far back as the Earnhardt era. Brazil UFC hashtag NASCAR doubleheader, says Mark Barnum. That would be cool. I'd watch that. One wise guy said he'd watch that too. So there you go. They fight on top of the car, says Angus 420. The biggest comeback was R-Truth, says like dislike. R-Truth, the Charlotte guy. So there you go. North Carolina boy right there. Cowboy Cerrone drove 2.4 LaMullets. Hey, there you go. I didn't know he was in there. He was sponsored. He was part of Kevin Harvick's management group though, so that makes sense. BB, you a cat or dog person? Says OJ and Toothpaste. Yes. I like both of them. Let's see. R-Truth also came back. As long as they're other people's cat and dog, because I'm over the emotional roller coaster of having to put them into the ground. So I'm done. I'm done having pets. I can't deal with the loss anymore. Hurts too bad. Let's see. R-Truth also came back. Says PC going rogue. So there you go. Let's see. I think it's Eric because he had no contract talks and you didn't do the Kevin Farewell tour. Yeah, I think a lot of people are leaning toward Eric Almirola. So we'll have to see. We'll see what's the poll saying right now. Slight lead for Eric Almirola in the poll right now. 22% for Reagan and Trevor Bayne, and 25% for Cousin Carl. 31% right now for Eric Almirola in the poll. Get those votes in now if you'd like to. If not, just keep rolling with us here. BB, does Cody Ware deserve a second chance? I say no. OJ and Toothpaste asking there. I believe in forgiveness, and I believe that there are paths back. That being said, his second chance for something like that, where he repeatedly did it over and over again, I think it's going to be hard to prove to anybody that he has changed because he got the restraining order. He went back and did it again. I do believe in second chances, but it's going to be at least a decade before I'm willing, a decade of good behavior and giving back to the community and proving that you're a changed person. I'm going to need to see at least a decade of that before me personally, if I'm running NASCAR, before I let it back on the track. So that's a tough one to come back from. I don't know. That's about as bad as that's about as low as it gets. What he did. So I have a huge problem with it, and I'm a big second chance person. But that one's going to be hard to come back from. Like I said, a decade suspension minimum before he can get the hearing to come back. New Camry equals Mustang / Camaro clone, says Mark Barnum. To me, and somebody in the comments of the video said it too. To me, it looks like the old 2004 bodies. It looks like Toyota is sort of going back to that look with the sleeked out. I call them bullet cars. That's kind of what it reminds me of. You see the Daily Downforce posted on Twitter asking if people think Danica should be in the Hall of Fame. Like mind blowing, says say Kyle. Hey, look, it's a fair question to ask, right? It wasn't for her on track performance, but she did inspire a lot of little girls to look at themselves and say, hey, look, if she can be a race car driver, anybody can be a race car driver, honestly, from the talent level. But it took a lot of little girls looked at her and said, hey, look, that's a female race car driver. I can be a female race car driver too. So her story is important, but she's not the first female to do it. She might arguably be sort of the most famous recently. Should she be enshrined in the Hall of Fame? No. Maybe there's a section of the Hall of Fame that explains why she's important. So maybe put the importance of the story in the Hall of Fame, but Danica Patrick in the Hall of Fame herself, I would say no. But I do think it's a fair question because, look, we're talking about it. It's an interesting question to ask. So they did a good job with the question. Daily Downforce, they're on it. Of course, I am Daily Downforce affiliated, so that is a shameless plug for them. And I have no problem doing it because that's a really cool group. Everybody there is really cool. But yeah, that's a great question to ask because it does inspire some conversation, right? Let's see. Danica Patrick was at the Vegas Grand Prix with F1. How crazy is it that Las Vegas is going to make it illegal to stand on bridges now? That's going to kill their tourism. For one race, they're going to try to make a law where you can't stand on a bridge. Like that's. What are we doing here? We're going to hurt tourism to appease the F1. I don't know. Danica has done F1 all season, says Mark Barnum. Danica, yes, she got in some hot water for making some comments about some driver too. Danica can make Hall of Fame for worst driver. Sure, why not, says Shaw. Jimmy Johnson lacked a personality. He was like a wet noodle, but had great car control. Yeah, he was a heck of a driver. I can't take anything away from him as a driver. BB, how did Danica Patrick do on Earth 2 in her career? Earth 2, she's got to be a legend. She's got to be one of the all-timers. She's up there. She's up there in last car stats with the likes of Jimmy Means and others. We'll just say others. When you mess with the kids and women, you shouldn't get a second chance at anything, in my opinion. He won't get a second chance at his 2A rights. So yeah, that's fair. Like I do believe in people learning from their mistakes, I guess is what I should say. But some things are a privilege, and that's like one of those privileges. Like if you come back at all, it's gonna be at least a decade, and you really have to prove that you're a changed human being. There are some instances I can think of some people that significantly changed, but the vast majority of the time, I would say 9 times out of 10, the person never really changes. So we'll have to see, but I don't think we'll ever see him in NASCAR again. Verstappen must be eating whatever Jimmy Johnson used to eat because F1 in 2023 has been boring. Max won 19 Grand Prix, and the schedule is only like 23 races, I think. That being said, Max Verstappen has a lot more. He's got a lot more personality, or he shows a lot more personality than Jimmy Johnson. I think Jimmy Johnson has a lot of personality. I think he just chooses not to show it to be corporate sponsor friendly. NASCAR should put 4 bangers in these cars and not have them restricted, says Escobar. I think NASCAR could just come up with a formula. Like you get X amount of displacement, you can make it a 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder, 16-cylinder. It doesn't matter to us. You just give them a displacement rule and a stuff like that. Robbie Gordon, somebody has a rule like that. I think it's called a formula. Anyway, Robbie Gordon was awful, says Bones does. He won races though, more than one race. And at different types of tracks. I think Robbie Gordon's one of the most naturally talented drivers I've ever seen. Did he drive a little bit rough? I'll give you that. He definitely drives rough or aggressive or whatever you want to call it. But I'm not. I don't know if I can call him a bad driver. Let's see. Bingo, Baloney Man. Danica did a ton for NASCAR. Brought a lot of eyes to NASCAR. Yeah, for sure. She could get the landmark award, but she shouldn't be anywhere near the Hall of Fame as an actual balloted slot. That and also. If you give her any type of award, that is putting a microphone in front of her face on a big stage. And she's been, in my opinion, on this attention kick recently. So be careful. Be careful putting a microphone in front of somebody's face who likes attention. A couple of years ago, I asked Dave Bad Mood on XM about Danica Patrick going to the Hall of Fame, and he basically called me an idiot. Says like dislike. So there you go. And that's another, like Dave Moody, he makes a lot of good points, but the way he treats fans, I just can't get with that. Like, I've never understood why he is so rude to some fans. Most of the time, he's rude to fans. I just don't get that. Let's see. BB, should Marty Reed join Mike Joy and Kevin Harvick in the booth next year, says OJ and Toothpaste. Once again, Marty Reed never bothered me, so I don't know. I'm keeping clients out of Vegas 2 to 3 months in advance of F1. Construction, grandstands, barricades, or ruin the strip for tourism. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how much is Vegas going to ruin tourism to appease one weekend out of the year that, according to a lot of people in Vegas, didn't even make them any money? So people do change, just not often. Says Bone Thugs. Yeah, I agree. And look, I'm hoping Corey changes, right? I always want people to better themselves. There's nothing you can't come back from. I do believe in forgiveness, but there are some things that even if you change, there are people that are always going to look at you and be like, "Hey, you're that piece of crap that did that." So that's just what you're going to be known for. So even when you change, it's still you're still never going to come back from some people. Let's see. Personally, I think the worst driver. That being said, he's going to have to really do something to prove that he's a changed human being. Because, like I said, he had the restraining order, then he broke the restraining order to do the exact same activity again. So that's a tough one to come back from. Personally, I think the worst driver, and it's crazy because his dad seems like the nicest dude in the world, and that's just I don't know. Rick Ware just seems like one of the nicer dudes. I don't get it. Let's see. Personally, I think the worst driver ever was John West Townley, but he still won a truck race. Did Danica do that? The story of his demise doesn't put him in a good light either. Yeah, that was a bad one. And we're not going to get into that. Let's see. BB's is Zaxby's chicken finger looking good. I hate Zaxby's chicken. I've never cared for anything at Zaxby's. My friends love it, and every time we go there, I'm just like, give me buttered toast and a sweet tea. Like, I freaking hate Zaxby's. Let's see. Supermax Verstappen is like Rowdy Bush. Says in between the lanes. Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of personality. Danica sure does love her some Danica. Yeah, no, get you somebody that loves you like Danica loves Danica. Let's see. Haley Deegan will be in the Hall of Fame before Danica. Yeah, so I think personally, Haley Deegan has had just as big, if not a bigger impact on young female girls than Danica Patrick has, because we're older and we don't necessarily get it. But if you look at Haley Deegan's YouTube channel, she is affecting, I think, way more people than Danica ever did at a more personal level, because I feel like a YouTube channel is a much more personal level than just seeing a polished product that was TV back in the 2000s, we'll say, early 2000s to mid 2000s. I think a question I have from last week. Do you think the wing on the back of the electric car will be a problem because Brad Keselowski almost passed in Atlanta because of the COT wing? Yeah, a wing on the back of a car is a terrible idea. I'm pretty sure that's just a prototype, so we'll have to we'll see. That's just a prototype. They've even said that car is never going to see an actual racetrack. That's just more of a showpiece to sort of show what they're testing. That's all they're using that for. Robbie Gordon was not a bad driver. He was not accepted by the powers that be. Some of the prima donnas also. He is still a great driver at what he does. Yeah, he's pretty much anything he's ever jumped in, he's at least been decent at. Now his personality rubs people the wrong way and stuff like that. But I can't ever say he was a bad driver. I don't find Dave rude, but he has zero patience for trolls. And sometimes thinks legit questions are trolls. And when they pick apart a half-baked idea, I don't know, I enjoy his spiciness. Says Seikal. Yeah, I mean, he's not for everybody, but I get it. Some people like that. Look, Howard Stern before he became super conservative like he is now, or whatever has happened to him. A lot of people liked Howard Stern because he was always on the edge. He made a career out of being trolling people, basically. So enjoy what you enjoy. I'm not telling anybody how to enjoy anything. I listen to Dave Moody any chance I get, but it does irk me when somebody like you're saying here, when somebody asks a legitimate question and he takes it the wrong way and just is an absolute asshole to him. It's so cringe when he does that. Vegas was 60 million and nothing to show for it. No racetrack that they could have built. Says Duke Chronic. BB rate Danica on a scale of 1 to 10 on her looks. I'm gonna go. Yeah, Sha says -10 and -10. She ain't pretty. She just looks that way. I'm gonna go in the negatives as well, just because looks can't get you past the personality, and I just don't like her personality. I just don't like how she approaches life. She just seems like an overly negative person, and I don't know. I'm not about that life. BB, so is Zaxby's the worst chicken in your opinion? I don't know about worst chicken. I just don't like anything they've got there. Let's see. Deegan is not being rushed, says Duke Chronic. Yeah, that's the other thing. Deegan is doing it the right way. Whether she makes it the cup or not, she's at least spending time in each series trying to get better. If they have a wing, it might be so they can test DRS. Yeah, that's definitely an option too. And it might be a situation where you only see that wing, because that's what they did with the next gen car. Not the next gen car, but that's what they did with the car tomorrow when it first came out. Some of the tracks, and then some they went to the spoiler. And then there was the year where they ran half the old car, half the new car, which might be what I'm thinking about. But it would be easy to take a wing off of a car, like if you use the wing for the road courses, and then put the wing or put the spoiler back on it for super speedways and stuff like that. Let's see. I'm with that. I rooted for Danica not to smack the wall. The same with Decker, but I legitimately root for Deegan and Tony Breitinger. Yeah, I can't spell her last name either, but I know who you're talking about. Say Kyle. To do well. BB, will Haley Deegan ever be a full-time Cup driver in a Cup team, in a good team? It's hard to say. I personally hope so, because I think it would be good for the sport. But if she doesn't get it done, there's enough females out there right now. One of these females is going to get it done, and they're going to knock it out of the park. There's a lot of good female drivers out there. So they're going to get rid of the people that think female drivers can't drive or whatever. I don't think there's really that many people out there that really think that. So we'll see. Somebody's going to break through and get it done. Would the 60 car for RFK be part-time, I guess? We're going to find out tomorrow, Danielle. Nobody knows. We don't even know if it's going to be in the Cup Series or if it's going to be in the Xfinity Series. It's all up for debate right now. Same people that hate on Robbie Gordon also hated Juan Montoya. I like both. Yeah, I did too. So first off, Robbie Gordon was an RCR guy, so obviously I liked him because of that. He had the bright orange car. That car was super sweet. I like that too. Even when it was the black and orange car, that was a super sweet car too. But when they went to the all orange car, that thing was pretty tough. And Juan Pablo Montoya, like JPM, like he was super fun to watch, man. I swear, being a woman in this sport is hell. We are picked apart more than men ever are. Yeah, that's for sure. There's definitely always going to be that. It's a vocal small minority, but they're definitely going to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Howard Stern started as a fart man, says like this. Like, I know what you mean, but Howard Stern is about as far from conservative as it gets. Say Kyle. So I knew somebody was going to pick that apart. So what I mean by conservative is, if you think about what Howard Stern used to do and used to say, and now he's telling people that they need to mask up or they're idiots. It is literally the exact opposite of how he acted his whole career. And even though it doesn't sound like necessarily conservative behavior, it encompasses, and you're thinking about conservative in terms of political. I'm talking about conservative in terms of conservatives would always tell you how to live your life. So that's what I'm talking about from a conservative point of view. Don't do that. That's dangerous. That's what he's telling you, because he got into this big hubbub about whether or not you should wear a face covering during the whole thing because he's a germaphobe. So he went from being the shock jock that nothing was off limits to all of a sudden, oh no, if your face isn't covered, oh no. So he just it just totally that whole deal. It broke a lot of people, and it broke Howard Stern. And it's weird that somebody who basically seemed like they lived their lives with no rules, he did like a 180. Like he's a whole different dude now. Let's see here. I've had a few times I wanted to call Dave Moody and be like, "Come on, Dave, you knew what that guy meant." LOL. That stuff is annoying. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like he does the literal word for word thing, which is just it's whatever. It's part of his gimmick, I think. Now, I think originally it was like an actual thing he did, but I feel like now it's just kind of a gimmick he does. So I don't know, because nobody can be that old and that mad all the time about the stuff he gets mad about. Guthrie's sucks too, says Dirty Death. I don't know. I didn't get to see her watch. Like I didn't get to see her. I didn't get to watch her race is what I was trying to say there. I didn't get to see her watch, her timepiece. But yeah, I didn't get to see her race, so I can't give actual perspective on that one. I haven't even seen any like old races of her in them, so I couldn't really comment on that one. Bones with the super chat. Appreciate you, my friend. Always with the fist bump there. Let's see here. BB, would you rather test drive an F1 car or a NASCAR car? Says OJ and Toothpaste. I would rather do a NASCAR car, because although an F1 car would be really cool, they're just so much more technically different than what I'm used to driving. It would take so long for me just to get used to that open wheel car and all that stuff. It would a NASCAR car. It's just at least the old school ones. It's just a bunch of horsepower, and you learn like throttle control. It's not as big as of a learning curve. The old 4-speed setup, like I would be thinking about, because they're not going to let you test a new car, obviously. So the old four on the floor NASCAR car, I'd rather test drive one of those over anything really. Which is similar to the limited late model I've got anyway. So just ungodly way more power. Like my late model car with 1,000 horsepower. I'd love to try it one time. Moody should be careful on his way to the top, because on the way down, you meet the same people. Hey, there you go. You tell him, Big Wheel. Let's see here. And I don't think Dave Moody's a bad guy, but I think he takes some questions the wrong way, and he goes way too hard on them. I've been a fan for 29 years, and I can tell you more about these cars than most men can. I love proving it to them to piss them off, says Bumblebee. And I've seen you do it on Twitter, my friend. So yeah, we got your back. We got your back, EB. So you get in trouble, you just let us know. Let's see here. DRS could be the electric part of the new hybrid. Says Duke Chronic. Yeah, so that's another aspect of it too. Like you would get X amount of however they're going to do it for the charge on the electric part of the engine. So there's all kinds of things in play. EB, I've never understood. They can't get passed by the girl, so let me wreck her mentality. There's definitely a lot of that at the late model level. Don't get passed by the girl. Come on, it's another car. Treat the ladies as. And I'm not saying every driver out there, but I have heard certain younger drivers that are guys say that. Danica can't stand her attitude personally. Yeah, Danica gone Danica. So that's all I can say about that one. BB, who will win the Daytona 500 2024 Earth 1? Kyle Busch. And on Earth 2? Earth 2, I don't know. I need to see an entry list on Earth 2. Let's see. I don't like Danica in the slightest. LOL, says B. Who's the driver that got or is in trouble, banned by NASCAR? Cody Ware is the last one I remember. Tony B in ARCA is really good, and she has crappy stuff as well. Says Duke Ryan, saying she's elevating the equipment she's in. The movie Strucker Ace, called Burt Reynolds, was supposed to be released as a Ford Thunderbird car. Was not supposed to be out until the next year. Ace, there you go. That particular model in that movie came out a year early for that movie. Howard now says Duke Chronic. I like the Marcus Ambrose versus Juan Montoya battles at Watkins Glen. Yeah, that was a fun deal. I loved Marcus Ambrose just in the Cup Series period. He's just a fun driver. 100% BB. Thanks, Kyle. Says Danielle. People can clean. Mark Martin driving, and I like Mark. But can you imagine how boring racing would be if everyone raced that clean? Yeah, you got to have a good mix of everybody. EB, my ex-sister's girlfriend, was much more aware of what was going on under an engine than I could ever be. Also had a better Cobalt tool kit than me too. Says, say Kyle. I like her style already. She's not spending too much money on hand tools because hand tools, no matter how nice they are, they're just going to get used up. Let's see which Xfinity driver and Cobalt tools for the price point are pretty good. And from my experience, Cobalt and Husky both make really good tools, depending on if you're at Lowe's or Home Depot. Let's see which Xfinity driver that's going to Cup in 2024 do you think is going to do the best? That's a good question. I'm going to go with Zane Smith from the Truck Series, though. Even though he wasn't necessarily in the Xfinity Series, I think Zane Smith or Carson Hocevar is going to get it done in the Cup Series. BB, do you wear one when you're shopping for groceries? Says OJ Toothpaste. Look, I'm not going to get into that because that's super political. So if you wanted to wear one, if you didn't want to wear one, that's your business, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not that stuff. It got super crazy. You either were for it or against it, and to me, that's a personal health choice. So I'm not going to weigh in on that. I'm not going to lean one way or other. You do what you think is best for you and your personal health. So I was never comfortable with anybody. I remember that Nick Wright guy on was he on Fox Sports or ESPN? But he would just always be talking about whether or not somebody should get it, and I'm like, dude, that's their personal. That should be somebody's personal decision. So I don't feel comfortable talking about stuff like that. Howard was a shock jock, but nowadays, not being politically correct will hurt a career. Comedy is deceased. Says Shy, no one has a sense of humor anymore. It can definitely get rough. Dave Chappelle is out there saying what he feels like still, so we'll see. And he's getting good ratings for it too. It's all cyclical. It all comes and goes. The 90s was super politically correct. And it spawned an anti-politically correct movement, and not only in comedy, but in music and other stuff. So it's all cyclical. It all goes around. Guthrie's Chicken says, Dirty Death, Baloney Man, you are so good, really good. At this, we really enjoy your work. I appreciate you there, Big Wheel. Jade, Jade of Vitason, I can't say her last name to save my soul, is running as fast as Larson in the midgets. She's good. And the fact that she wants to come to race stock cars is also a big thing. Allegedly, I think I saw something about that. Whereas Kaylee Bryson, she seems to be more interested in open wheel. So, and she said something about that to that effect that she didn't. Kaylee Bryson said something to the effect that she doesn't care about NASCAR. Then she deleted it because I think somebody told her, "Hey, you don't say that." But it's cool. If she wants to race open wheel, she should totally go for open wheel. But the fact that Jade actually wants to race stock cars, I think is really cool. Shauna Robinson told the story about Mike Wallace wrecking her on purpose. Says like this, like that definitely seems like par for the course with Mike Wallace. He does some crazy stuff. I do remember that story though. Mayfield was on the band train too. Says say Kyle, yep, he was definitely one of them. Am I the only person that's confused? Dale, Steve, and Jeff on NBC broadcast. Well, definitely Dale and Jeff. I think I can tell Steve a little bit. He's got a much different accent. Let's see. I know people that knew Shirley Muldowney in the stories, and they say about drivers being harassed back then when she started. For sure, she's got a movie about that, or it's part of the movie about her. BB on Earth 2, the Daytona 500 has Hot Wheels Loop 360 on the backstretch. Yep. You got to take it every other lap, sort of like a joker in Rallycross. Bingo, Marcus Ambrose. He was fun to root for and watch for sure. He was one of the more fun drivers of all time. Who goes into the Sam Hunt car? Says like this, like, oh, that's a great question. I have no idea. Toyota has so many young drivers. I have no clue who might go in that car. That Ambrose kid's like, oh yeah, with the oil on the track. I just saw that. I saw those two names, and I know exactly what you're about to talk about. Say, Kyle, sorry about that. Watkins Glen finish was the best finish in NASCAR, in my opinion. Call me crazy, but even better than the Busch Craven Darlington. It's up there, man. Like it was a crazy race, and wasn't like Kyle Busch leading that race or something too. And he got in oil. Like I think Kyle Busch was part of that race as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, that was a great finish for sure. How bad did it irritate other drivers if Ross pulled a miracle and won most popular drivers? Seems he already gets shade from other drivers. Says Dirty Dev. I think that would be hilarious if he could pull that off. BB, who has the worst NASCAR pre-race show? Fox or NBC? Well, that's got to be me. I'm definitely the worst pre-race show, but it's so bad that it has a cult following of 10 people. So I don't know. Honest to God, I don't watch them because to your point, they're not as good as they used to be. I tell you what, every day I miss Ned Jarrett and Benny Parsons and all them. They did such a good job on the pre-race, and it's not the talent's fault. It's just the way they do it now is just totally different, and it's not for me. But a lot of people do like it. Trackside Live, hopefully he'll be back next season in full force. Sean O'Reck Jr. And he had a concussion, says Duke Chronic. Maybe what car manufacturer would you recommend to stay away from? I can do like the 33 worst cars, but I know that the car that I just bought is on the 33 worst cars, which puts it right in line with the Yugo Challenge because Fiat was basically who built the Yugo anyway, or at least the nuts or the frame for it. So Fiat back in the day, or at least the version I bought, is definitely up there on that list. Let's see, for the daily driver, says OJ and toothpastes. So not the Fiat 500, because you can actually get really good mileage out of those, but the automatic transmission on the bigger, it's like the Fiat 500L. It had like a certain automatic transmission issue. I'm trying to, like, I've got Fiat on the mind because I researched the one I bought, obviously. Not that I wasn't going to get anything but a manual transmission anyway, but the manual transmission is the way to go. If you buy a Fiat, well, I think they're all the car version of it is electric now. But anyway, that was the Fiat was definitely on there, and I couldn't remember the other car that was on there. KFB was leading. I hit oil. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And spun going into the bus stop on that, and Ambrose Watkins Glen win. Yeah, I remember Kyle Busch being a part of it. So, but he wasn't part of the finish. So yeah, he was definitely there in it. Kyle Busch hit oil that in that 2012 Watkins Glen finish, and Keselowski spun him. Jade just signed a multi-year deal with Toyota. Yep, she sure did. It was Patty Mawese that Mike Reck says Dennis Gillespie. Yeah, I just remember somebody. I remember Mike Wallace wrecked a girl, and allegedly it was on purpose. But I can't remember if Mike Wallace has ever verified that it was on purpose or not. It's been a long time ago since that story happened. But yeah, I do remember the story. Started to play NASCAR Heat 5 again, and I forgot Ken Squire is the voice of the video game at the beginning. It says like this, like, oh, that's got to hit, man. Like, God, we lost such a legend with Ken Squire, man. Like, that's always going to be a sad one. BB, what car is the worst? 2002 Ford Taurus, Pontiac Aztec, or a Range Rover? So the Aztec actually lasts longer, but it's the ugliest. Ford Taurus, I tell you what, the Taurus might be the pick there because they made so many of them and they sold so many that year that you should be able to find parts as long as all of them haven't been crushed. But without question, the Range Rover is going to be the worst. Range Rovers for reliability are always going to be the worst. You're going to have to eventually change the transmission in the Taurus, so get 5 or 6 of them. But the Range Rover, you're going to have to change everything, and you're going to overpay for it. So I'm just going to go Range Rover all day on that. Probably your best choice for reliability is going to be the Aztec there, and then the Ford Taurus. Even though you're going to have to replace the transmission 15 times, you're probably going to come out cheaper with the Ford Taurus because they made way more of them than the Pontiac Aztec. So I would go overall pick, if you have to pick one and drive, Ford Taurus there because there's just going to be so many parts. And you could probably buy like 2 or 3 of them and just pick parts off of those 2 or 3 to keep that one running. The best, and I'm speaking specifically about the 02 to like 04 Ford Taurus. They had and the Mercury Sable. They had a lot of, this is my era of Ford when I was working there. So I know about this firsthand. They had a lot of transmission issues for that particular run. The best, or one of the best on TV, Buddy Baker, and that 3.8, one side of it got, I want to say one side of it, I might not be remembering the right car though. One of the 3.8 engines, one side of it got too hot because of the way they had the engine in the bay, which would obviously be the side that's closest and not getting the air. But I can't remember if it was the Ford Taurus or another car. Anyway, the best, or the one of the best TV, Buddy Baker, he could spot a wreck 3 laps before it happened. That's a fact. He had a good eye. Ben Kubler saying Brad Keselowski, Big Wheel, the best ever, Wallace ever, Kenny the Herminator. There you go. Big Wheel going with the Herminator there. Great YouTube channel, by the way, too. Just in case you didn't know about it. Range Rover is always in the shop. LOL, says OJ and Toothpaste. Yeah, so if you buy the Range Rover, make sure you get either the Ford Taurus or the Pontiac Aztec, so you'll have something to drive while the Range Rover is in the shop. It's the new. Back in the, I guess, 80s and 90s. That was always a bumper sticker. My Jaguar's in the shop. That used to be the Jaguar thing. My other car is a Jaguar, but it's in the shop or something like that. You can essentially make that same bumper sticker for a Range Rover. BB, what do you think? Car dealerships are honest and never lie about anything. I haven't met one yet. I've met one that was pretty close to no BS, but I haven't met one that was completely non-BS. And it was in Virginia, Midlothian, and I wish I remembered the name of it because I would tell you that because they were as close to no BS as I've ever seen. BB, what truck is better, the Honda Ridgeline, the Nissan Titan, or a Dodge Ram 1500? Dodge Ram 1500 is probably going to be your better bet there. The Nissan Ridgeline has the same problem that the Honda, depending on the year, has the same problem as the Honda Odyssey. They had a run of those where the transmission, they got something off in the transmission, and the transmission falls out of them pretty frequently. So depending on the year for the Ridgeline, even though Hondas 9 times out of 10 are super reliable, there were years of the Ridgeline and the Honda Odyssey where the transmission was not good. And I want to say it was like 2009 to 2012, somewhere in there. Let's see. What would you trust more, a car salesman or a timeshare telemarketer? I want to say somewhere in the range of, I'll have to look it up. I don't want to just throw out numbers. Let's see here. What would you trust more, a car salesman or a timeshare telemarketer? I'm going to go with car salesman. Because the timeshares are probably the greatest scam that was ever pulled off on the American public. Great YouTube channel for the Herminator, Kenny Wallace Show. YouTube, almost as good as the Baloney Man. Oh, he definitely pulls better clientele, so you're good. BB, when car dealers, BB, when am I going to become a car dealer? I don't know. I'm a car salesman, and I take offense to that, says Escobar. Hey, not all car. I'm talking about the people that own the car shop. There are actually, believe it or not, there are actually some car salesmen that will be straight up. I'm not talking about the salesmen. I'm talking about the people that own the dealerships, because you know as good as I do, Escobar, you have worked for people that are like, hey, just don't tell them about this. Push this car. That's a legit thing that happens. Yeah, but there are definitely a lot of car salesmen that they're actually straight up. So I will vouch for you on that, Escobar. Car salesman approach you and they say you're around your friend. Do you trust them? and hang out with them after you bought the car? LOL, says OJ and Toothpaste. I actually have, because I worked at Ford. I actually have some friends that were car salesmen. So yeah, I did hang out with car salesmen afterwards. But there are definitely a lot that you want to stay away from too. I was a timeshare telemarketer at one part. Escobar, all good. Says Say Kyle. So hey, there you go. Timeshare for sure. That was you were in on it. You created the Florida bubble there, Say Kyle. Let's see here. BB, do you think 2311? You're part of the reason. You're part of the reason that there is no home ownership outside of a corporate entity now. Let's see, because timeshares were one of the first steps toward that. B, do you think 2311, 23XI is one of the better teams when it comes to branding and promoting their sponsors? I do. And for whatever reason, they come up with either really terrible paint schemes or they come up with some of the most awesome paint schemes you've ever seen in your life. And when they first started out, 2311, they had really good gear. As the years have progressed, which surprises me for a Michael Jordan-owned team, they've got some of the ugliest damn T-shirts I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't get it, man. Like they should have the best. They should have the absolute best gear, and they just don't. Like I was really expecting them, and Trackhouse too, for that matter. I felt like Trackhouse should have more gear than they've got. That looks really cool. But yeah, them and Trackhouse, I thought they would have like the best like gear and paint schemes and stuff, and they just haven't so far. Typo, LOL, but they do have. They are really good at activating their marketing stuff, and so is Trackhouse. So I would say 2311 and Trackhouse are ahead of the game as far as that goes. Typo, when Carl sells. Typo, LOL, when car salesmen say they're your best friend. Do you believe them? LOL. It depends on the car salesman, to be honest with you. Let's see. Poll for Sam Hunt Racing. Like I said, there are some car salesmen I met that are just straight up. Matty D, Grant, Trevor, and Noah. Like, I don't know. There's dang. He was just straight up. I don't know. He just straight up told me, he's like, dude, he sold a lot of people a lot of cars that he knew were coming right back, and he felt terrible about it. So he just went to a different dealership where he didn't have to do that because he was just being pushed to get people to sign. And this is back when anybody could get a loan, and he was like, I looked at their credit score. He was like, I knew they couldn't afford the car. He was like, but we were just rubber stamping everybody, and he's like, I knew it would put these people in a financial situation, and it wouldn't be good for him. He's like, but I had to sell the car anyway because I was being pushed by the front office or the salesman. He was being pushed by the sales manager, and he couldn't deal with it anymore. So he went to a different dealership where he didn't, I guess, have to do that anymore. So yeah, there's definitely some good ones out there. He was a good one. Let's see. I haven't talked to him in a decade. A good car salesman. They are fun. Great personalities. Funny. Yeah. Look. Car salesmen, whether you like them or not, they're some of the most fun people out there, whether they're good or bad. They're always entertaining. Escobar, I wish you sold me my Tundra. I argued over the price for 6 hours before we got a deal. Then Toyota car salesmen were lying and switching up numbers, trying to confuse me. I finally walked out. OJ and Toothpaste, that's the best thing you can do, my friend. A lot of people don't want to hear it. When they see you walking out the door, they know that if you walk off that lot, there is close to a 90% chance you never come back on that lot. So if you don't like the deal, just get up and walk away. I promise you, before you hit that door, you will get a better deal on 9 times out of 10. Then they gave me the deal I wanted when me and my girlfriend got in the car to leave. There you go. You got it figured out. I have a friend that went from a Coca-Cola dealership to a lifelong car salesman. Says Mark Barnum, late to the party. I'm not going to touch that one, Mark. Late to the party tonight, but please be Cousin Carl. It's probably going to be Eric. In my opinion, it's probably going to be Eric Almirola. But maybe we see a few starts at some point from Carl Edwards one day. We'll just keep putting pressure on him. Let's see here. I feel bad for people who buy a car not knowing and getting hosed. Was not going to deal with that BS. LOL, says OJ. Let's see. Built Ford tough. Let's see. Let's see. It's tough. Customers are worse than most salesmen. Car salesmen today want to make a deal. If they can't, they're just upfront and want to move on to the next customer. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I feel like you're probably an honest and good car salesman. So from your perspective, I agree with you. But I feel like part of the reason the customers are like that is because they've dealt with a lot of bad car salesmen too. So it's a tough one, man. But I get where you're coming from, dude. Built Ford Proud says in between the lanes. Let's see. Some customers don't believe a word you say, but yet they won't leave. Yeah, I've seen that song and dance too, man. Like they're determined to buy that car, but they're just determined to buy that car for that price. And there's a middle ground, but they're not going to move to the middle ground. And the car salesman's trying to move to the middle ground, like you said, to make a deal, but they're determined that this insanely low number that they're going to buy this car for is going to work. And it's just not. So it's a tough situation. I've been there for that one. Like I said, my buddy, whenever he would have a situation like that, I would come from like this time I was working in the wash pit. I would come from the wash pit and I'd be like, "Hey, you ready to go to lunch?" And he would be dealing with a customer like that, and I would just point and laugh at him, and then hold up my finger like number one or number two because we always got the same thing at the lunch spot that we went to. So I'd hold up my finger number two, and if he gave the nod, I'd get the number two. If he didn't, I'd get the number one. Let's see, BB, have you ever got up? Way too much information with no payoff there. BB, have you ever got up and left a dealership, says OJ and Toothpaste? No, not really. I knew I pretty much always buy used cars, except for I bought a Corolla brand new. I bought a Silverado brand new, and a Honda Civic brand new. Other than that, I've bought everything used, and it pretty much just, I told them what I'd pay for it, and then they were like, okay, pretty much easy peasy there. That's why I like selling travel, and there's no haggling, there's no feelings or pressure pitching. The price is what the price is, and I'm selling exactly what you're asking for. Hey, so there you go. I mean, yeah. And you're in a perfect place for it too. Like everybody wants to visit Florida, or at least they did back in the day. I'm pretty sure it's still the same way, but yeah. And everybody in Florida, wants to go different places too and see that. So yeah, I think and you're making dreams come true, really. At the end of the day, for certain trips. So there's the good feeling in that too. Let's see. Last car I bought, I had cash in my pocket and told the salesman I was. And also, you're providing a service where you're taking away a lot of the freaking headache from people. Like people don't realize how annoying planning a trip is. I don't plan any of my trips, to be totally honest with you. Aside from logistically how I'm going to get there and exactly what I'm going to spend and what places I'm going to go. Other than that, I'm just like, we'll just pull up and see if this one's got a vacancy. So I do the pretty much the least planning you can do. Let's see. Last car I bought, I had cash in my pocket and told the salesman I was paying cash and had the number I was going to pay. I worked that guy until he gave in. LOL. Says Mark Barnum. Yeah, the cool thing now is a lot of the times you can handle it over a messenger chat or something like that. A lot of times you don't even have to go in there. You can work the deal without even going into the actual dealership. BB, which really excites the salesman, because not only is the salesman that sells it, not only is he getting stepped on by the service manager or by the sales manager, he's also going to now get stepped on by the internet manager who was doing the talking to you with the messenger. So that's the other thing about car sales. Like everybody tries to get a hand in on everybody else's deal. If you're at a really aggressive dealership, I've seen that go down too. The same buddy I'm talking about, he was selling a Ford Escape to somebody, and all the salesmen had been on a drought, and everybody kept coming over there and trying to get a hand in on the deal. And finally, at the end of it, he's like, "Damn, how many people are going to come over here and try to get a hand in this deal? Are we done, or can I just talk to my client here?" It was he was just pretty much straight up about it. It's the only time I've ever seen that happen. Let's see, BB, do you know the YouTube channel Scotty Kilmer? I do know all Scotty Kilmer. If it's not a Toyota, don't buy it. That's pretty much the gist of his channel. But he does some good stuff for reliability and stuff like that. He's got good numbers on stuff like that. Mr. Pearson, what's up, my friend? Thumbs up and cheers to you too. I had a customer today that came in a taxi and not an Uber. He took a taxi, and I gave him the best numbers, and he wouldn't leave. After 2 hours, he tells me I came in a taxi, so you better call them. Says Escobar. That's hilarious. That's hilarious, man. Because I'm done. Hey, there you go. I mean, you hate to be like that, but if they're not going to budge, they're not going to budge. Like, it sucks, dude. I never had to experience that one because, like, I didn't have to stay after hours if they were still with a client. So basically, when it was time to clock out, I clocked out and left. But I saw several salesmen staying there way after hours and stuff, and you come in the next day and you can see the look on their face as to whether or not they sold the car or not. Because pretty much if they sold the car, they weren't coming in the next day. And if they didn't sell the car, you come in the next day and you see them, they're just, they're not in the best mood. BB, would you buy a car from Carvana? No, I would not. I feel like all those particular deals are way overpriced. Let's see. I don't really is it CarMax, the one that you can't negotiate? They're like, oh, the price on the car is the price you pay. No haggling. I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea. So I don't understand how that ever took off. So yeah, Carvana, CarMax, stuff like that. I don't really fool with them. I don't really do Disney Orlando, but we sell cruises are pretty big right now. I didn't think about those. There's YouTube channels dedicated to cruises. Hour away from Carnival, a lot of Alaska, Europe. Working 40K Italy trip today. It's awesome. Not to mention a free Euro trip I just went on. That's pretty cool. That worked out too. Man, I saw one today. It was like it was a European one, and it started with a C. I don't know what it was called though. It was like a CU. I want to say it was one I'd never heard of, but they had they had the Queen Mary, the Queen Anne, or something like that. And the reason it stuck out in my mind is because it was the Queen Anne and like Blackbeard and stuff like that. Queen Anne's Revenge. But that one was really cool because I was like, I'd never heard of that cruise line before, but it looks super fancy. Let's see here. People say the ears of the mystery driver like David Reagan, who's an underrated choice. That's true. It could be, but I'm leaning toward Eric Almirola, but I'm good with either one of those because both of those drivers are relatively tall, and the person in that picture looks relatively tall and slender. Similar to the freckle on the wrist of colleague's Cup driver of the 31 who turned out to be Daniel Hemrick. Yep, it could be. BB, one salesperson told me he was there till 3 a.m. working out a deal. Says OJ and Toothpaste. Oh, that's terrible, man. Like, how can you even work out a deal at that point? Because in my case, is Ford Credit even still open? Can you still work out a deal? Or the bank? Like, who are you talking to bank wise? Like, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Jimmy Johnson buys his cars from Carvana for sure. Hopefully, he gets cars that weren't previously owned by somebody and not paid for when they got to Carvana, because that was probably the worst scandal I've ever heard of. BB, have you ever had a car in the shop and they lied to you for repairs and then you punched them? I have not. I have not. It's super fancy. It's the dress up tux and formal kind of front line. Mostly does New York to London transatlantics. That's what it looked like. It looked super. I don't know, like you said, super fancy. So yeah, but it was the first time I'd ever seen it, like a commercial for it. So I was like, I was like, that one must Canard. That's it. Canard is the name of it. Yeah, that's. I knew it started with a CUN, but we weren't going to go the direction of what I thought the rest of the name was. So I knew if I said it started with a CU, I was going to leave it up to you because I wasn't going to get in trouble by trying to phonetically spell it out, and I didn't want to see the comments that followed afterwards. So thank you. You got exactly what I was trying to go for. But yeah, it looks super fancy. So I'm glad you verified that it's super fancy, and I can mark it off my list of things that I will never do because I'm not going to pay that much money to go on that particular cruise. So yeah, there you go. One wise guy saying y'all have a good night. I appreciate you, one wise guy. You have a good one too. And before I hop off here, I'm going to throw this down one time. We've got a buy one get one t-shirts at the website. So there you go. There's a buy one get one. Buy one t-shirt, get one free, and it's going to run until January 1st. I want to say. So there you go. Let's see. Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Averted, says Seika. Yeah. Like I knew it started with CUN, but I didn't want to say CUN, and then I didn't want to see The rest of the funny song about the Titanic cruise, says Mark Barnum. I'll have to check that one out. But yeah, I'm fixing to jump off of here. OJ and Toothpaste saying see you later, and I will see you later as well. Fun times. Peace.